So this is our next process in scope management called Create WBS. WBS is the acronym for Work Breakdown Structure. The work breakdown structure is a hierarchical decomposition of work that needs to be accomplished on the project. We've got various types of WBSs. You've got those that look like boxes broken down, you've got the text-based, and so on. But let's talk about how we get our WBS. The WBS is derived by taking the mass of work and breaking it down into smaller, more manageable pieces. So the top level of the WBS is the root node. We break down the work from the root node all the way down to work packages. And the work packages is the lowest level of the work breakdown structure. Work packages could vary in size. They could be as small as 40 hours or as large as 320 hours, depending on the nature of the project. But typically, you do not want to think about your work breakdown structure as a list of activities. That is wrong. You would like to think about your WBS as higher levels of work. So we know we've got a work package. Under the work package, you've got activities. But we don't want to go to that level when we are creating our WBS. We want to stay at a higher level than the activity level. Let's talk about our inputs here. First input is scope management plan. For obvious reasons, we're in scope management. We need a roadmap for how to carry out scope management. Everything from requirements to planning scope and defining scope and all that. We need to have a method for doing it. So our scope management plan is our benchmark, our roadmap for how to actually create our WBS. Is it going to be a top-down WBS? Is it going to be a bottom-up WBS? All of that should be addressed in the scope management plan. Our next input is the project scope statement. The project scope statement was an input from a previous process, but now we've got all of the work described. We're going to take all the work described and break it down into smaller chunks. Now, in the work breakdown structure, we have what we call a code of accounts, which is the numbering system which is given to all of the different components. That's also very important to remember here. So we're going to take our scope statement, we're going to craft it, put it into a visual that people can see. It's going to be a hierarchical structure. People are going to be able to see lower levels roll up into higher levels, and they're also going to see from the code of accounts how the whole WBS relates, how the different components fit, and so on. Our next input is requirements documentation. And the last two are enterprise environmental factors and organizational process assets. Let's talk about our tools and techniques. Decomposition. We get our mass of work and we decompose it into lower levels. So decomposition is how we do that. And our final tool and technique is expert judgment. How about our outputs from here? First output, scope baseline. Now you're probably wondering, but I thought we were working on the WBS. We are, but the WBS is part of your scope baseline. Your scope baseline contains 3 documents. Those 3 things your scope baseline contains is your WBS dictionary, and your project scope statement. Very important to remember that. And our last output is project documents updates, which refers to documents that might have been updated as a result of creating your WBS. Next, we'll talk about validate scope.